Hey, in this next tutorial video, I'm going to cover the command scale. Yes, just that basic command scale. It's a very useful command, but it also can be a little bit, should I say it has a bit of an attitude, I guess? And it's all a matter of how to use it. And as soon as you understand how to use the scale command, it becomes very simple to use. All right, so I'm just going to use the scale command on these covered porch posts that I have here on this floor plan that I've used in many tutorial videos now. All right, and I'm going to show you two ways of using the scale command. So I'm going to type in SC enter for the shortcut, and I'm going to select my object. I'm going to use a nice green box to select my objects nice and quickly, and I want to scale everything to do with this post. All right, once you select your objects, you press enter to tell AutoCAD you're done selecting your objects. Now, if you read your command line, you're going to see it asks you to select your base point. Now, a base point means, the object you move the point, the point you move the object by. So when you create a block, you'll pick your own base point. When you select an object, it's that blue square that pops up. That's the end point. So I'm going to go ahead and click the center of my post because then I can scale this based on the center of it, and it'll stay exactly where it is located. It'll just scale around that center point. If I was scaling, let's say, a table, I would probably actually scale the table on like the bottom left corner or something like that. Or maybe the center again, but again, think about your own object and think about how you want to scale. Of course, you can always use move afterwards and move your object into the proper location. But in this case, it kind of works that I can scale on center. So I'm going to click the center of my post. And you can see here now right away, if I move my cursor to the right or left, doesn't matter, just on the outside, sure enough, I'm scaling it. I am overall making it much, much larger. If I go closer to my base point, it's smaller. If I go further away from my base point, it's larger. This is the default way of using the scale command, and this is the first way that I'm going to show you how to use the scale command. And this is based on a scale factor, as mentioned in the command line right now. Now, scale factor is like, your factors in mathematics. So if I want something twice the size of this right now, like my original format, if I want something twice as large, I'm going to type in 2, enter, for something twice as large. If I wanted something 5 times the size, then I would just type in 5, enter. So it's the basic mathematic factor. If I wanted something half the size, I would type in 0.5, okay? So I'm just going to test it here with you, and I'm going to go, I want it twice the size, let's say, and I have a dimension here as well above, and the previous post was 7.5 inches wide. So if I go to enter, sure enough, you can tell by my dimension string it has times by 2. It is now double the size. It was 7.5 inches before, and now it is 1'3", which is equal to 15 inches. So that's the first way of using the scale command, okay? And it's just basic scale factors, basic mathematics. All right, I'm going to Control Z, undo, back my step up there. And I'm going to show you now the second way to use the scale command. And the second way to use the scale command is based on a size that you want. So let's say, for instance, here, I have by default here a 7.5 by 7.5 inch post, which is actually an 8 by 8 post. If you actually convert an 8 by 8 and measure them now these days, they're always going to be a ½ inch smaller. So let's say, for instance, I want to go down. I realize within my roof structure, I can actually lower the scale of these posts down, and I'm going to use a 6 by 6 post instead, and let's say I use an 8 by 8 post cap to decorative, like beef it up a bit for decorative purposes. But for basic wood purposes to save money, I can go down to a 6 by 6, especially with the cost of wood these days. Holy moly, it's expensive. So let's say I SC enter for scale, and we select our objects, enter. Right? Tell AutoCAD you're done selecting, we press enter. Same step for your base point, okay? Nothing here. Actually, I lied. Not the same thing for your base point, actually. So because I'm changing the size of my post here, I actually want to choose a different base point. I want to tell AutoCAD, actually, no, that's going to be my reference point. No, I lied again. Okay, no, all good. Actually, I'm going to pick the same base point. And this will make, again, much more sense once you do it once or twice and you kind of get used to scale. So I apologize. But no, actually you want to pick, I personally want to pick the same base point on center. Okay, here we go. Now it looks like I've just done the exact same step, but I'm not going to now. I am not going to type in a scale factor. I want to forward your attention to the command line. And your command line has two extra options. You have copy or reference. And again, as usual, we want to use if you want to use shortcuts, you can just manually pick, of course, copy or reference, but I like shortcuts. So for the shortcuts, we of course use the blue letter at the bottom. It's hard to see with the screen share here in the recording, but if you really look close at your own monitor, you'll notice that one of the letters in these words are blue, and that blue letter is your shortcut. So for copy, it would be the C, and for reference, it's the R, and we're going to use reference. Okay, so I want you to type in R, enter for reference. Okay, your command line is now changed, and it'll say specify your reference length. Well, reference in this case means existing. It means what's there right now. So what is your reference length? Well, I'm going to pick my points. I'm going to move my mouse and pick my points. So I'm going to go to point A, because again, I want to change the size of this post, right? So I'm going to pick point A to point B. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, now you're scaling based on that reference length. Okay, now the command line has changed. Once you've picked point A to B, because it's a length, just A to B, your existing length, reference length is your existing length, your command line has changed. And it now goes, well, specify your new length. This is where I get to tell AutoCAD, okay, I want a 6x6, which in conversion is a 5.5 inch post. So with Imperial, I don't need to put in the inches because that's my insertion scale. So I'm just going to go 5.5, enter. And just like that, my dimension is attached to my object. So it changes with me, I guess, and with the scale command. And if I decide to use DIST to check the other side, you'll see here that it is also scaled both sides, 5.5 right there. So that is using the scale command based on a size. I'm going to do that one more time. Now, I know you can just back up the video. I know, I understand that. But I find that this ends up just helping out anyway. So SC enter, select your objects, enter. Base point, in my case, I wanted it to be the center. Then I'm going to switch the step here, and I'm going to go R, enter for reference, because I want to tell AutoCAD what my existing length is, and I want to dictate what the new length will be. So I'm going to pick my existing length, point A to point B, and I get to scale based on that length. So now I'm just going to type it in. My command line, I always read my command line first. It asks for my new length, and that is 5.5 inches, enter. And I can see here, based on my dimension string, it has changed. And if I quickly add another dimension string, I can see that that other side is 5.5 as well. All right, that is using the scale command. Hope you found it useful. Take care.